Awesome people, inspiring stories, the Living the Dream podcast. Welcome back to the Living the Dream podcast. I'm your host, Matt Scaletti. You're not going to believe who is with me today. Sean Swarner is a philanthropist, author, and keynote speaker. He is a two-time terminal cancer survivor who has dedicated his life to helping others reach their full potential. Sean created the Cancer Climber with his brother in 2001, a nonprofit organization that pays for and travels with cancer survivors to climb Kilimanjaro. Sean's passion for climbing and adventure blossomed after becoming the first cancer survivor to summit Mount Everest. He is also the only person to complete the World Ironman Championship and the Explorer's Grand Slam, which entails climbing the summits across all 7 continents and reaching both North and South poles. From executives of Fortune 500 companies such as Unilever and IBM to students and the New York Giants, his leadership workshops, documentary called True North, the Sean Swarner Story, inspirational keynotes, and book series 7 Summits to Success have inspired and won the hearts of millions to redefine their own impossible. His story has been shared on the Steve Harvey Show, CBS Evening News, The Today Show, Good Morning America, and now Living the Dream podcast. Please welcome, I am beyond excited. Welcome, Sean.
I appreciate it, Matt. It was kind of funny. You're like, the guy coming up, or the guest I have coming up, he's unbelievable. And I was thinking, that's awesome. Who is this?
Oh, it's you, my friend. And I can't even, that bio blows my mind and how humble and down to earth you are. I couldn't be more excited. So let's jump right in. I can't wait to hear the backstory. We've heard about all the successes. Let's go back and we'll get to those, but start with your childhood. What was it like growing up? Go for it.
Oh man, my childhood was just like anybody else's. You know, I grew up, well, I guess it was just like anybody else who grew up in Ohio. Um, so, you know, my backyard was a bean field or a cornfield, all depending on the season. I loved building forts. You know, I got into trouble. We TP'd back before TP was, you know, it wasn't worth its weight in gold. We TP'd the coach's track house. We've even forked his yard a couple times. But I was a normal kid growing up. You know, I was a swimmer. I played football, basketball, cross country, track. I pole vaulted. I mean, you name it. If it was there, I tried it just because I wanted to go and do everything. You know, my parents encouraged me to be so active. But everything changed when I eventually got diagnosed at 13 with advanced stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma. And they found it because not because I had any night sweats, not because I was showing any symptoms or anything. I was actually playing basketball. I came down and my knee snapped.
Oh.
And it was awful. You know how like when you're eating Thanksgiving dinner and you're like chewing on the turkey leg and those tendons and everything are snapping. That's kind of what it sounded like when I landed.
Oh.
So I knew something was wrong, but because of the type of cancer I had, that injury triggered every joint in my body to swell up. You know, so like my knuckles were swollen, my wrists were swollen, my elbows was swollen, my face, everything was swollen. And initially the doctors, sorry, there's something blowing in my face. The doctors thought I had pneumonia, and it's incredibly difficult to cure cancer by sucking on a nebulizer. So they took me from Willard, Ohio to Columbus, Ohio. And that's when they diagnosed me with advanced stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma. And they told my parents, hey, your firstborn son has 3 months to live.
Oh my goodness. So what happens after that?
Well, I started chemotherapy and I gained probably 60, 70 pounds.
Wow.
And I think, and I lost all the hair on my head too. It was different because I remember, my friends, you know, they were so concerned about what was popular. They were concerned about what was trendy. They wanted to be in the popular cliques, the popular crowd, whatever. And they were concerned about the nicest hairstyles, the nicest clothes, the nicest shoes. And to me, I mean, I was literally fighting for my life. So that just didn't mean anything to me. In fact, I remember one morning, and it's still a difficult story to even think about, but I woke up in bed one morning, and I was sitting on the edge of my bed, and I remember looking off to my left where my pillow was. It was just, at that morning, it was just covered in hair. So I ran to the bathroom thinking, I knew at one point it was going to fall out. So I went to the bathroom, I looked at it, where's it coming out? Went to the shower, turned the shower on. And normally, maybe not in your case, but normally when you wash your head,
I see where that's going.
you bring your hand. I brought my hands down, and they were just covered in hair.
Oh man!
Right, and normally I could feel the water hitting my hair and then kind of soaking through to the scalp. But this time it was just hitting my scalp, and I literally collapsed to the shower floor. I was on my hands and knees, just weeping.
Oh man!
And I remember I was pulling chunks of hair out of the drain just so the water could go down. And I was in that moment, I was thinking about what my friends were doing while they were getting ready for school the same morning. And again, they were worried about, how many pumps they were going to get on the Reebok pump, 67, 68, whatever. And to me, that stuff, like I said, just didn't matter. But it was also in that same moment that I remember I decided that I had two choices. I could fight for my life, or I could give up and die. And the latter it just wasn't an option.
Yeah. So he gives you 3 months to live. Obviously, you've lasted many more months and years than that. When did you find out, well, maybe I can beat this thing? When did you get a little bit of good news, or did you not?
I think it was gradual. But also when I was going back to that shower story, that's when I decided to have a different perspective. And at 13, I decided I didn't want to focus on not dying. I wanted to focus on living. And anybody in the world, as opposed to avoiding something, by being motivated by something negative or the avoidance of something, that's when I decided at 13 I was going to be positive. I wanted to go towards something. I wanted to be attracted to something, not the avoidance of something. And I think that's something that really helped too. But but going back to your question about it was over time. So that 3 months they gave me turned into, 6 months, 8 months, whatever. But I was in and out of the hospital for about a year and a half. And I was, like I said, I ballooned up. I was 60, 70 pounds overweight from the steroids, the prednisone. And it was just a horrible time.
So you're fighting for a year and a half, now you're 14 plus years old. And did you then, were you able to live a normal life, or was this still, or you're battling well into your teens?
I was in remission for, we'll just say, roughly a year. And I was going in for a checkup for the first cancer when they found a second cancer. And this time around, they diagnosed me with a type of cancer that affects 3 out of a million people with a prognosis of 6%.
Oh my God.
So if you have 100 people with this cancer, bearing in mind that 3 out of a million get it, if you have 100 people with this type of cancer, 94 die.
Oh,
like I said, the prognosis was 6%. But if you add on the Hodgkin's that I had before, no one's ever had those two cancers. There are two primary cancers, completely unrelated. And I did some number crunching, and I found out that the chances of me surviving both of those cancers is roughly the same as winning the lottery 4 times in a row with the same numbers.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's insane.
So yeah, I'm very fortunate, very blessed, to say the least.
I mean, oh my God, I can't believe how rare that is. And so as you're living longer, you're going through, what's your mindset going through all of this? And then you start to recover a little bit. Could you focus on positive things, or was it hard to not go back to focusing on not dying?
Well, it was tough the second time around, because believe it or not, they told my parents again, hey, your firstborn son now has 14 days to live.
Oh my goodness.
So I had 2 weeks to live, and they actually put me in a medically induced coma, in and out of it for a year. I don't remember being 16 years old.
Oh my God.
So, I mean, some people probably wish they could forget being 16, but I don't even have that opportunity. I don't have that choice.
Wow. Okay, so you're in and out of a coma. You don't remember 16. At some point, you turn the corner and you start achieving just unbelievable things. How long? What was that process from this Sean to the first major achievement, Sean?
I think the first major achievement was probably a year after I was placed in remission. I loved running track, and I think I put in so much time and effort, and I really love. I don't want to say I love pain, but I love pushing myself to the limits.
I know what you mean. I like it.
And I love when my lungs burn. You know, it sucks, but I love it. And I trained so hard for the next year. I actually came back a year after I was placed in remission with my one. I have one functioning lung. I won my high school's league track meet in the 800-meter run.
Oh my goodness. That's almost impossible. I said that's almost impossible, right? I mean, you are proving the impossible.
But it's, again, I'm going to actually grab my business card while you're sitting there talking, because it's kind of funny. Because on my business card, it says right there,
it always seems impossible until it's done. Oh, I love that. Oh, that's so good. Your life is just perfect proof of that.
But it's so true. And I think it was Henry Ford who said, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
I love that quote. That's a good one right there.
It's so true. And if people are presented with an opportunity and they see it as an obstacle, obviously they're thinking they can't do it.
That's a good point.
It's all about perspective.
Hey, Sean, so question for you along those lines. Clearly, it's a tough time. COVID is upon us. And do you have any advice for people that either have been diagnosed with cancer or some tough disease, or they're just having a tough time due to COVID or something else? Do you have any advice for those people?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing to remember is that it's a temporary state, not a permanent condition. You can endure so much more than you really think you can. And when I was going through my treatments, one of the things that I did was I focused, when I had a bad day, I focused on the future. I visualized myself in the future accomplishing goals. And when I had good days, I focused on the present. So I put myself in a situation where I wanted to focus on what was best for me. So when I was sick and I was throwing up for 36 hours nonstop, I would focus on, hey, I know this is going to pass. And I would visualize myself finishing the track meet or something like that, or swimming back and forth in the pool finally again. And then when I was actually having a good day, I focused on that. I really truly focused on the present. So for anybody who's having a rough time, enjoy the good days. I don't have to tell anybody, sometimes life sucks.
Yeah.
But enjoy the days that you have, the good moments, the good times, the friends, the family, whatever means most to you at your core. And when you have bad days, it's gonna pass. Think about something in the future that's pulling you, something that you really, really want.
That, I just wrote this down. Good day, focus on present. Bad day, focus on the future. I've never heard anything like that before. That's such a great idea and takeaway. Okay, so we got to get into just some of the insane things that you've done. I'm excited to hear about them in as much detail as you want to give us. I was going to ask first about Mount Everest. If you want to start somewhere else, feel free. But Mount Everest story seems like a pretty darn good place to talk to you about. Let's hear it. I'm so pumped.
It was really high, really cold, and snowy.
Next subject. That's
Next,
good.
No, I'm kidding. It was unbelievable. I mean, when I first started off, people thought it was physiologically impossible to climb Everest with half your lung capacity. They kept saying, Sean will never make it past Camp 2. I was the first person to sleep at Camp 3, and I was the third person to summit that whole season. When somebody tells me, you can't do that, man, it's like adding fuel to the fire. I want to prove them wrong. But the reason I did it, I think, is what got me to the top. And it really is, and it really was. Everything I do still, and what I did on Everest was to use it essentially as a platform to scream hope, to give back to the cancer community. And because there's so many people who are touched by cancer, it's almost like a global epidemic now. I use that as a platform to show them, hey, you can do anything you put your mind to. So when we got there, I mean, there was one moment when I was coming down the mountain in a section called the Khumbu Ice Fall, which is like, if you can imagine Long Island or Manhattan, right? downtown New York City, put it on a 45-degree angle and have all those buildings tumble into each other. And have, yeah, that's what it was like. And then have it move down the mountain at 4 feet a day. So it's constantly shifting and constantly moving. You know, in the daytime, the sun comes up and melts the water, it melts the ice, ice goes down, or the water melts down underneath. And that's when the ice becomes really slick. You know, in the wintertime, Pennsylvania, you're PA, right?
Yeah, Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So when there's water on ice, it's super slick. But when it's just ice, it's not too bad. So during the daytime, the water melts down and it gets underneath these ice chunks. They're called seracs, and they start sliding around. And then at night, it refreezes again. So you try to get there, you try to get through it before the sun comes up.
Okay.
You know, and keep in mind that you're in a valley and you're going through here. So you have, I don't know, maybe 5-6 hours of daylight in that section. So coming down, it was actually jumbling up so much. We finally got off a ladder. Sometimes you put ladders up against them. And when we got down on the ladder, I could hear things creaking and grinding. It's almost like that, like when you have a glass of ice and you pour some water in there.
Yeah.
Like that popping and snapping.
Yep.
Imagine that, but on a chunk of ice the size of a house. Right? So that's what we were standing on. And then when we got off of that, the chunk of ice it disappeared into a huge crevasse.
Oh my goodness.
So a lot of it is luck, you know, but it's also you make your fortune as well. You know, you make your luck as well. So I take calculated risks.
How long did the whole thing take to go up and down?
I got to the mountain, the base camp, April 8th, and I summited May 16th. So a lot of people don't understand how long it takes to climb.
I thought you were going to say like 6 days.
No, like roughly a month and a half.
You were on the mountain for a month and a half.
Camping, no showers for a month and a half, man.
That is Did you know it was going to be a month and a half before you knew all that?
Yeah, because you have to acclimatize. You have to get your body used to the altitude. So what happens is, like, if we went from here, I live in Colorado, you live in Pennsylvania. If we just magically appeared on top of Everest, we would die within 3 or 4 minutes because of the little amount of oxygen that's on the summit. There's a third of the amount of oxygen on the summit as there is at sea level. So because our bodies aren't used to that, what happens when you go to Everest or any really big mountain, you have to acclimatize. And what you do is you go up and then you come back down, and then you rest at base camp. Then you go up to camp 1, sleep up there, come back down. And it helps because not only are you getting your body adjusted to the altitude, you're also taking stuff up the mountain, dropping off your full backpack. Then you go back to base camp, put more stuff in your backpack the next day and head up. So what happens when you go into altitude is your body starts manufacturing more red blood cells and more hemoglobin. Okay. So that way, because there's less oxygen, your body adapts to it by making more red blood cells so you can carry more oxygen. Okay. And the crazy thing is, when you're acclimatized to something that hot, like when I was flying home, I landed, I had a night layover in Bangkok. And when I was laying in the hotel room, the hotel bed, just getting ready to go to sleep, I counted that my pulse rate was in the 30s, and I think I was breathing 3 times a minute.
Oh my goodness.
Because my body didn't need that much oxygen. Yeah. I mean, it's insane.
The body is an amazing beast, isn't it?
Absolutely.
When the whole time, so it's a month and a half, which still blows my mind. I didn't know it was that long. Were you confident start to finish? Did you ever have any thoughts of, oh my God, like, why am I even here? You know, what was the mindset? So before I left, my brother went with me. He was at base camp. And then I had a cook at base camp, 2 Sherpas who were like local high altitude guides, amazing, amazing people, and then me. And when I was up at Camp 3, which is on the side of what's called the Lhotse ice face, it's a sheet of ice at a 45-degree angle that goes on for a mile, right? I mean, it's unbelievable how big this place is. You can't even imagine what Everest is like until you've seen it. It's like watching a movie on on your phone, and then watching a movie on IMAX. I mean, it's unbelievable. But we were up there, and when we left, my brother and I decided that the number 1 goal was to be on the mountain. The number 2 goal was to make it to the top. Well, I take that back. Number 1 goal is to stay alive. Number 2 goal is to have fun, and then, you know. But when I was at Camp 3 on the Lhotse ice face,
I actually started suffering what was called high altitude cerebral edema. So essentially altitude induced swelling of the brain. And I was on my way up to the summit. So my body had acclimatized. I was all ready. We established all 4 camps. We were going to go from camp 3, sleep at camp 3 one night, and then move to camp 4, rest there, and then go up the next, well, later that day, because you climbed throughout the night. We got to camp 3. I woke up the next morning and I vomited. Like I spewed out the dinner I had 9 hours before. And I could still see it was beef stew. So I could still see the little spiral noodles, the cubed carrots, the green peas. It hadn't been digested. So what that means is all the oxygen is receding from my appendages and surrounding my vital organs, like my liver, my heart, lungs, stuff like that. So I slept on oxygen at camp. I didn't move at all. And then I woke up, I think the next day, and we felt 100% fine. But it turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because any time that happens to somebody, you're supposed to go down in altitude. That's the only cure. Yeah. But it turned out, like I said, to be a blessing in disguise, because every other group who was at camp 3 when we were ready to go to camp 4 and then that night go up for the summit, they left. They were on their schedules, other groups, everything else. They went to camp 4. They started to go up for the summit. The weather turned bad. They had to turn around, and that was it for them. You get 1 shot on Everest every year. So it turned out to be a blessing in disguise.
Yes, it did. Oh my! I cannot believe. I just can't believe that this is all happening, and you're still like, we're going. I mean, that's just is it possible to put into words the feeling, the moment you got to the very top?
I don't know if I could put it into words, but I can describe it by saying, take every emotion you've ever had and put it into a tiny ball and just explode it all at once.
Oh.
And I mean, it was just elation. It was sadness. It was everything, because I'd worked so hard to make that happen.
Yeah.
But what the first thing I did when I got up there is I the whole time I was climbing, I had a flag that was about, I don't know, what is that, a foot by maybe a foot, square foot. And it had names of people touched by cancer on it. And I had that folded up in my chest pocket as a constant reminder of why I was doing what I was doing. It was my motivation. Mm-hmm. So I actually wrapped that around the top of the world. And then immediately after that, because like I said before, I'm a huge believer in the mind-body connection. I visualize myself on top many times. What you never see in films, what you never see in documentaries, what you never see in any adventure movie, how do you get back home? So what I forgot to do was visualize myself going down. So I get up to the top and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I was like, wait a minute, I have to get back down. I forgot about that part.
Oh no. So what's the story going down? Did you have a tough time?
No, it was fine going down, but
okay.
more injuries and more deaths happen on the way down, because that's what happens. Most people are so fixated on the top, they expend all their energy, their lackadaisical coming down. And when you're going up a mountain, you have crampons, which are spikes that you attach to the bottom of your boots.
Oh, yeah.
And there are 2 of them that stick out from your toes. So if you're not careful as you're walking down, you could stick one of them into your pant leg.
Oh, yeah.
And when you fall going up the mountain, when you fall going up a slope, you fall into the mountain. When you fall going down a slope, you tumble miles.
Yeah. Wow, that's a great point with not even visualizing going back down.
Yeah.
I'm sure nobody does that. You get to the top and that's it. You did it.
Yeah, like, hey, this is awesome. We're here. Oh, now what?
What was this whole experience? I mean, was it everything you thought it would be times 1,000? And can you give us a couple takeaways that probably stay with you for the rest of your life on what you learned either about you or about doing the impossible, or any takeaways from Everest?
I would say the biggest thing, because I also, after, like you mentioned before, I've done the Explorers Grand Slam, which is the highest mountain on every continent, and the 2 poles. And I take a group up Kilimanjaro every year as a fundraiser for a cancer charity. And I can't tell you how many times people think, well, I'm going to conquer this mountain. So what I learned on Everest was, you don't conquer the mountain, you conquer yourself.
Oh, it's so good.
It's not you against the mountain, because if it's you against the mountain, Mother Nature is going to kick your ass every single time, I promise. So she allows you up because a lot of it is weather. It's weather related. Summit percentages are weather related, but it's not you against the mountain. It's you against yourself, and you find out a lot about what you can do, who you are, and what means most to you. You know, because if you're being motivated by fame and fortune, you're trying to motivate yourself by fame and fortune when all you want is recognition, by family, you know, you're not going to make it. You know, you have to stay true to who you are and motivate yourself with what works best for you. So when you're climbing, or when in life, I suppose it's a huge metaphor. They have so many parallels. You know, you can really see what you value most. And one of the things that my parents taught me too, and that really reflected on the mountain, was I didn't have to be the best. I just had to be my best.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, that's so good. What, I mean, you've accomplished, it's just, I didn't know where to start or where we go, because it's just, you've done so much. What drives you daily? I mean, is it, you talked about having the names of the cancer survivors and maybe some that we lost as well. Is that solely what drives you? Is there something else that just makes you want to keep going more and more and harder and harder?
You know, I've been doing a lot of thinking about that. And yes, it is the number one motivating factor I have in my life is I love helping others. You know, one of the biggest achievements that I really enjoy, one of the biggest things I get out of taking people up, Kelly, I know we'll talk about it soon because I keep alluding to it, is when we get to the top, people always come up in tears, you know, and they hug me and they're like, you know, thank you so much for getting me here. I take a step back and I say, I didn't do anything to get you here. And that's when the light bulb goes off, you know, and they understand, hey, you know, I did it. I did it on my own. You know, I got myself here. So I think a lot of people don't understand that they have the power within themselves to accomplish anything. So one of the biggest things is to encourage other people, to push them, to help empower them to achieve amazing things. And then, like I said, recently I was thinking about it. And yes, it is still the cancer survivors, cancer patients, people who passed away, and hope that's at the bottom of it. But I'm also wondering if I'm still trying to prove to myself I'm still alive.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. You've been thinking a lot. I can tell
Yeah.
you've been thinking a lot about that one. That's good. It's also awesome to think, and I want to ask you in a different way, but do you almost get more joy out of other people accomplishing something than you do from yourself?
Let me ask you this. Do you have any kids?
Not yet, no.
Okay. So are you at the age yet where you get more joy out of giving gifts than receiving gifts?
1,000% yes.
There you go.
That's perfect. You're exactly right. I can't even imagine. I mean, I'm giving somebody a $25 gift card. You're giving somebody the ability to get to the top of Kilimanjaro. That's special, my friend.
Yeah, but everybody has their own mountains, you know, and even if you help someone just on a fraction of the scale, it still means something to that person. You know, and it's like that analogy of throwing a pebble into a pond. You know, the ripples just keep going out. You never know whose life you can truly affect by just even saying hello.
Small things, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so we got to go there because, like you said, Kilimanjaro is on my mind now, and I get, you know, when I focus in on something, I just want to stay there. So you take it where you want. I know a little bit about it, but I want to hear all about Kilimanjaro and what you do and what you help others do.
Well, first of all, you have to go next year. And I know we're recording right now because up in the Zoom corner it says recording. So I want to hear you say that you're going to Kilimanjaro next year.
I'm in, Sean.
Right.
Bring it. Let's go.
And I also know that you can click pause and rewind and edit and everything else. So there's a delete button on your computer.
You have my word, and now you know I said it. There you go. I'm in, podcast. I'm in.
All right, there we go. You heard it. It's a life-changing trip. That's the best way to put it. We do a seven-day hike, and anyone can do it. You know, I took my mom when she was 63. I've taken someone who was 13. I've taken someone who was 70.
Wow. Okay.
And anyone can do it. There's nothing technical about it. but the average success rate for the mountain on every group is 8%. Okay. My groups are at 98%.
Wait, what was the other groups?
48.
Oh my
So
goodness.
the whole mountain, the percentage of successes is 48%, less than half. We're almost at 100%. We're at 98% because we do things differently. And I tell people again, you don't conquer the mountain, you conquer yourself. And everybody has what I call their pardon my French, their oh shit moment, right? Where they look at the mountain and that's what they're like. They go, oh shit. But it's because they really haven't thought about it. And they get overwhelmed. And just like life, if you look at the giant picture, you start freaking out. But if you have a to-do list or something like that, and you start checking off one at a time, it's very doable. It's like that old saying, and I have no idea who would possibly even attempt to do this, but how do you eat an elephant? Right? One bite at a time. Because I don't know who came up with that analogy. It's a sick analogy, but it's
I get it though. I understand what you're saying now.
yeah.
So it's, well, go ahead. I was going to say, so you take one trip every single year to Kilimanjaro?
Every year, and it's a fundraiser for a cancer charity, and the cancer charity pays for a survivor to go every year, and then it's that survivor's responsibility to pay it forward next year's survivor. So kind of keeping it in the cancer family. Anybody can go, but we always have a cancer survivor who goes. And next year, we were supposed to have 3 survivors this year, so we're going to have 3 next year, and hopefully 4 in 2021, and then maybe with those 4 they can raise enough funds to take 6 in 2022. My goal is to take a group of 12 people every year, 12 survivors every year, totally free of charge.
That is so cool. That's such a great idea. And how big? So up to 12 survivors or maybe more. How big is the whole group?
It's been anywhere between 6 and 1 year. I had a friend who was going over with a different group. There were a bunch of Kiwis, a bunch of people from New Zealand.
Oh yeah.
And he ended up, he's fine now, but he ended up getting a brain tumor. So he couldn't take the group up. And I jumped in, I went over there once, helped him out, and we took 31 people up. Wow. And that's just, it's like herding cats. And it's like everybody just goes back and they kind of revert back to high school. They group with these people, like, come on, people, mingle, go step out of your comfort zone, go talk to somebody else.
If somebody's listening to this and thinking, you know what, maybe I'll talk to Sean, maybe I will do Kilimanjaro. How long does somebody need if they're not overly active now to get ready for a trip like that?
Well, let's just say we're not leaving until June next. Well, we're not doing another trip that people can join until June next year. So you have plenty of time. Mm-hmm. However, most people they continue to wait. Oh, I'll do it. I'll wait. I'll look into it later. And all of a sudden now it's May. Like, oh man, well, I'll do it in 2022. Put it on your calendar. It's just like anybody who wants to run a marathon. You're not going to go out and just run 26.2 miles tomorrow. Some people could, but for the most part, you pick a date and you work backwards and you start training that way. So most people can do it with, 3, 6, 8 months of training.
I love that. So I was going to ask you advice, and you kind of just said it, for somebody who's trying to get into healthier living and, maybe is doing too many things at once. Do you have advice for somebody that's trying to, even let's say a couch to 5K thing? What would you say to that person?
So let's say we'll use that analogy, or that person who's on the couch and they want to run a 5K. My first goal was to literally crawl 8 feet from the hospital bed to the toilet. That was my first goal. So if you can get off the couch and walk past the refrigerator, maybe somewhere else, you can do it. Start with walking around the house, then walk around the block, and then the next day walk around the block, and then a little bit more. It all starts with habits. And look at why you're stuck on the couch, or look at why you're stuck where you are in life. When you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing most people do? Well, they go to the bathroom, but after that, I suppose, they go to their office and they probably get on their phone and they go through social media. They look at the news, they read the news. You're instantly, within the first 15 minutes of waking up, starting your day on a negative note. I would bet you that's 90% of the world.
I bet you're right. That was me for many, many years as well. So now I need to ask the follow-up question of, can you give us a little insight into your morning routine? What does Sean Swarner do to just crush it every day?
I think the most important thing I do every time my alarm goes off, it's set for 4:30, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday,
Oh,
Friday,
you're the
right?
man. Love it.
4:30, my alarm goes off. I used to do this all the time. I never hit snooze. Because what you're doing is when you hit snooze, you're psychologically or you're subconsciously telling yourself, you know what? There's nothing that's super exciting for me to get to. My day can wait. But if you turn off the snooze and you get out of bed, you're like, look, man, I'm excited for the day. Bring it on. So I think that's the very first thing that you have to switch. You just flip that switch. Try it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. It becomes a habit. And then when the alarm goes off, you're like, all right, let's do it.
I love it. 4:30 in the morning. This is just can I ask what from 4:45 a.m. to 6 a.m. is that where you get your workouts, or you reading? What are you doing?
So I don't know if I may have mentioned it earlier. My wife's from Puerto Rico.
Oh yeah.
And we just got married in November. God, I better know this. We got married February of last year.
Oh, congrats! I didn't know
Thank
that.
you.
Oh yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. And every morning when I'm in my office, I'm on my phone with Rosetta Stone studying more Spanish.
Oh wow.
So I can communicate with her family. They all speak English, but her mom refuses to speak English to me to force me to speak Spanish. I mean, it helps. It helps. But wake up, no snooze, bounce out of bed. And don't get me wrong, it's not every day I bounce out of bed. Some days I'm like, oh God, I feel like I just got kicked in the face by Bruce Lee. I do the Spanish lessons, and then I'll go downstairs. And the first thing that I put in my body is I take maybe a tablespoon and a half, 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. Mix that with mother. Apparently that does something even better. Mix it with water, chug that down. So that does some amazing things for the body. Then I go upstairs and I work on some videos, or I catch up on some emails. Then I wake up my wife, her name is Julissa. And then recently we go and there's maybe 8 minutes from my house. There's a set of stairs. That's 200 steps, just straight up and down basically. And I'll grab a heavy backpack and I'll just go up and down with that because I'm in training for Kilimanjaro right now. We'll come home, we'll do yoga, and that's all before 7:30.
Oh.
Right? So 7:30, we're done with yoga. And then at 7:45 to maybe 8:30, we'll do breakfast, and then I'll start work, and then I'll do another workout, and then I'll do something else. So every day I have something different going on.
Just so everybody knows, the man told me before we went recorded here that he does 4 workouts a day leading up to this trip we'll talk about in a second. You're a dynamo. I mean, you are an unstoppable force, and I love that. When I got to ask you this. So you went through clearly tough times at a young age. You're overcoming that. You're doing Everest, and you're summiting all these different mountains. When did you have an idea of, oh wow, like maybe this is something I could inspire others to do? When did that kind of click? Because now you're speaking all over the world. You're clearly on every different show possible. It's amazing. Was there a moment where you thought, maybe I need to tell my story?
I think when I was living in Jacksonville, Florida, working for my master's and my doctorate, and that's when my brother and I came up with the idea of climbing Everest. So we kind of planned it out. Like, look, let's just literally use the highest platform in the world to give people hope. And then I had this idea of, sharing my story and helping others and encouraging them and empowering them. I had no idea it was going to turn out like this, and I'm glad it did. But initially it was to use Everest as a springboard to really help other people.
I love it, and I love that. You didn't think to go climb some little mountain. You guys chose Everest. You chose the most difficult one, just like you. I love it. So I love, you've just done so much. And I know that there has to be something out there in the future. There's a what's next for Sean. I can just sense it. I may have done a little research and looked up something about Africa and something about a summit challenge, if I read that right. Can you give us some insight on what's happening in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So July 26th, I'm leaving for the annual trip up Kilimanjaro. And I know a lot of people are thinking, oh my God, is it going to be safe? Even my parents were saying, is it going to be safe? I don't know, but I do know we do this every year. And I don't want to find out what happens to a guy with one lung if he gets COVID. So we're taking as many precautions as possible. I have a handful of, believe it or not, years ago, I bought them for like work around the house with sawdust and everything else. Some N95 masks. So I'm hoping I'm going to be all right. Take every precaution possible, but we're going to go up and down again. I'm going to take them on a 7-day hike, get off the mountain, and then take them on a safari. So we do a 4-day safari afterwards. Then on our way back from the safari, I'm going to pick up another group. We're going to rest a couple days, and I'm going to go back up the mountain again, and then come back down. That's why I'm training four times a day, because I'm doing Kilimanjaro, the highest mountain in Africa, 2 times in a row. And then we're going to go back on the safari. Then I'm going to be flying home.
Well, you're not going to go up a third time? What's the deal?
No, I think that's good, man.
Wow. So you're gone for 4 weeks?
Yeah. July 26th to August 26th or 27th. Yeah.
So that is the yearly trip that I'll be with you on next year.
Yep, exactly.
Now, what's the Summit Challenge?
The Summit Challenge is, how do I put this succinctly? It's a series of 7 challenges to help people tap into their core values to help them become unstoppable.
I love that. So you mean like anybody can do this with you?
Anyone. It's an online challenge, and I thought about it for a long time, and I was thinking maybe we could do online program, but like there's so many programs out there, and we talked about this before, and they're overwhelming. Because you get a workbook that's 4 inches thick, it's 300 and some pages long. You have 9,000 things to do every day. You throw it out the window because you get frustrated and you quit it. But this is basically helping people develop micro changes, and essentially habits. Just change one thing for 3 weeks, or do 1 or 2 things for 3 weeks, make it a habit, then continue doing that habit into the second challenge. And it's all based on personal core values. So if you're trying to motivate yourself with something that you're really not motivated by, you're going to quit. A perfect example is New Year's Day. People make resolutions, right? Mm-hmm. Millions of people join a gym, and they go for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then you now have 100,000 people who are still going.
Right.
But I think it's because of their perspective. A lot of people go and they work out because they hate their bodies. Mm-hmm. That's not how you look at it. You don't work out because you hate your body. You work out because you love your body. Mm-hmm. You don't do things because you hate it. You do it because you love it. If you just change your perspective a little bit, it changes your entire world. So if you understand what motivates you at the core, you can change your entire life's perspective, and you can stay intrinsically motivated. So if you motivate yourself with, say a Starbucks card, $500 Starbucks card, that's going to work for the short term. What lasts forever is an internal motivation, that intrinsic motivation. And with this challenge, you learn what that is, and you start developing conscious habits that help you get what you want, not avoid what you don't want.
Oh, that's so good. So how long, there's 7 different sections. How long is this challenge, the Summit Challenge?
So 7 challenges, 3 weeks per challenge, because whoever they are, the infamous they say it takes 3 weeks to develop a habit. So we just threw that out there as 3 weeks. And then each week you have like a micro challenge per week. And the first one is basically waking up and starting off your day on a positive note, and then ending your day on a positive note. So everybody gets a journal. Everybody gets to, what I have it's called a core values assessment. So you can go through 60 different core values and pick out 10 that mean the most to you. And then you rate those. And now you have a tangible list of your top 10 personal core values. So based on that, now you can start making conscious decisions on what you really want, not what somebody else wants for you. You don't go after what your wife wants for you. You don't go after what your kids want. Well, your kids maybe, depending on if that's one of your personal core values is family, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is you have to go after what you want and be motivated by what works best for you.
I love that. So everybody's challenges are going to be going off in all kind of different directions, whatever they're about.
Exactly, exactly. So it's a, and I mean this in the best way possible, it's a generic enough program, but it's so specific to what you personally want. And it helps people. It kind of goes along the analogy of, you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. You teach him to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. That's what this does. It doesn't just show you how to do it, it teaches you how.
Oh, that's so good. So where, like, if I want to go or anyone wants to sign up for the challenge, where do they, how much time do we have? When's it start and where do they go?
I believe when this airs, it should be going. Should be going on. Yeah, just go to SeanSwarner.com. Sean, like Sean Connery, Sean, the proper way. My grandpa came from Ireland or Scotland. So, and then Swarner, just like the Warner Brothers, but slap an S on the front. So SeanSwarner.com.
I love how you said that. SeanSwarner.com for the challenge. So it's 3 weeks per challenge, 7 challenges, 21 weeks. And I would imagine if you do the whole thing, you're going to come out a completely different person a few months down the road.
Absolutely. It will change your life.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, we'll link that in the show notes so everybody can see as well where they need to go to check that out, because that's awesome. You're just doing so many amazing things. It's almost like nothing surprises me anymore with you. It's like, oh, Sean's going to, he's going to run across the United States. Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. Well, maybe next time I'm in the Pittsburgh area, you're out here, we'll have a couple of beers. There'll be some surprises there.
If you're ever in the Berg, you better let me know, Sean. We'll get a good workout in, my friend. All right, we're going to wrap up. There's called the Power 5, just rapid fire, quick questions. If you can get them inside of like a sentence or two, I know it can be tough sometimes, these questions, but let's go for it. How do you want to be remembered?
As the guy next door, the friendly, empowering, fun, generous, genuine person.
I like how it's like you hammered home the genuine. That's awesome.
I was like, genuine.
Well, I can speak to, we got a chance to talk before we went on camera, and you are the exact same person all the time. My wife knows you, you're the same person. So I think this is one person's opinion, but you got the genuine part. You got it knocked out of the park. What are you, of all the things you've done, what are you most thankful for in this world?
Wow. You know how fast your brain works, like a million things a second. I was thinking, well, my health, my family, my friends, my life, and I think in all of that will be wrapped up into one word, just life.
I love that. I mean, especially from what you went through at a young age. I mean, I'm sure, I can't even imagine that. Okay. If I see Sean Swarner at a wedding reception in the future and he's on the dance floor, what is his go-to dance move?
Oh, well, it depends if my wife is there, because like I said, she's Puerto Rican.
Oh, yeah.
She's teaching me all sorts of different things. I don't know what they're called, but it's one of those things.
Oh, that's awesome. So you practice together?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Well, I have to, because I'm pretty sure, like, in the Latin American cultures, they don't induce labor, right? They play salsa music and dun-da, out comes the baby. Like, it's in their genes, man. I don't get it. They at such a young age, they know how to dance, and they know how to keep a beat and everything. Me, I'm working on it.
We're all works in progress, right?
Right.
All right, we got 2 more. This is almost a silly question to ask you, but I'm going to ask anyways. What's the biggest obstacle you overcame?
That cancer?
I mean, yeah, I was going to say, it's which one do you pick? But you overcame all of them, and I think that's why you're just such an inspiration. Okay, last one. Who is your hero?
Ooh. Is the I was going to say, is the proper answer Matt Scaletti?
No, it's not.
No?
You have to be genuine. Remember the genuine.
Okay, all right. I would say my brother is in there because he helped me through so much. My mom, my dad, but it really boils down to anybody who's gone through a rough time, and they pull out on the other end with a positive attitude. Not people who've gone through a rough time and come out on the other side thinking the world owes them something. Mm-hmm. But people who've gone through something tough and difficult and come out on the other side a different, more positive person.
Oh, that's such a good answer. That is so good. Okay. Last thing is, if people are listening to this, we know the website to go to, SeanSwarner.com. Are you active on social media? Can people follow you there?
Yeah, it's the same thing, Sean Swarner.
Sean Swarner, Instagram,
Yep.
good place?
Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube,
Yeah.
Facebook, Twitter, it's all the same.
By the way, definitely YouTube this guy. You'll be on there for just like 2 hours, just zoned in, and then you want to go run up a mountain. It's amazing. Check him out. You have great videos. I mean, you do a great job. I'm sure you have a team behind you that does great. Those videos are inspiring and just beautiful. I love it. Well, thank you, my friend. That's it. I appreciate your time. I can't thank you enough. Keep inspiring me and my wife and all the people that are going to listen or watch this. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, man. I'm really grateful for the opportunity.
Absolutely.